Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Open House Party by Chaz Murillo. And today's episode is episode 3 regarding my timeline of past work and what I've been doing all this time since about 2019. Alright, so in 2019, during the first quarter between January and March, I formed my entities legally. I got a Prusa printer and a mostly printed CNC machine purchased. I assembled my table for my MP CNC. I went to another real estate workshop that I attended and that was endorsed by John Damon. I got help from my Philippine team doing some website and logo development for, at the time I was branding as Rebel Motors, which I'm still using as my trademark. I had one of my buddies, Aaron, do some character design development for me, as well as I went to Lakeshore Cutting Solutions in Zealand for some WikiHouse kit prototype development. I also ordered 4 precious plastic machines on credit, with the shredder, injector, extruder, and compressor being sent to my dad's estate where I intended to set up my workshop. I paid for the legal servicing of filing my trademark, and I was working at Village Inn and Jets Pizza to supplement some of those bills or expenditures. So in this slide you'll see this is Lakeshore Cutting Solutions in Zealand. So I went there and they were pretty awesome as far as figuring out how to cut out my WikiHouse kit. I got some filing done as far as forming the legal entities. So in these slides you'll see some of my paperwork, bylaws, Lakeshore Cutting Solutions invoice, Rebel Motors trademark, and some of the kit parts for that was cut out by Lakeshore Cutting Solutions. At that time, I was also getting my designs figured out, and so I was playing around with some Rebel Motors trademark, House Party, Open House Party, WikiHouse, Open Building Institute, Creative Commons, and just getting more familiar with copyrights and trademark usage and development. And so I went to the wooden shoe maker there in my hometown of Holland, Michigan, and they helped me with the designs on like one shoe of some of my logo stuff and marketing development. So in that time, like I said, I was working at Village Inn. There's a lot of coins and earnings, setting up my Prusa printer machine, as well as assembling my mostly printed CNC machine. And as you see in the bottom slides, that's my kit, and I was basically assembling it from a kit into an MP CNC machine. So in the next slides, you'll see I got my wood table assembled by the local wood manufacturer or provider. I was setting up my CNC machine, getting all squared in my mom's garage, taking up her space, so that needed to get moved at some point as I was getting bigger and I was getting more serious about what I was wanting to do. So back in 2019, second quarter, around April and June, I had my MP CNC assembly on the table, so it went from kit to on the table. I was beginning transitioning, moving my operations from Holland, Michigan to Archbold, Ohio, where I would have the room to operate, record like I am doing now, document my developments, and setting up my own workshop space, which wouldn't interfere with where I was at the time. I was starting to work at the Marco's job, another pizza job in Archbold, Ohio, and I was attempting to set up my server and financial processing unit. So here's another slide of my MP CNC becoming more and more developed. I was having some issues with some components, getting it set up, and so that's where the 3D printer came in handy at one point. I was able to 3D print the replacement part for my MP CNC machine, which was pretty cool that I was able to do that and fix it. I got the table set up with my MP CNC, and it was set up at my dad's barn garage workshop space, and yeah, it was coming together and I was getting it to run and like legitimately run as far as move it, but I've not gotten to the point where I can like set up a script and have it cut something out for me yet. I was running into some software or sensor issues, and that's where I focused my priorities more on the house kits rather than the CNC development. So here's another picture of it being nicely set up, right by the garage there, and all those tools and materials. I have other adaptation ideas for it. I got a laser adaptation, and I can do, at some point I should be able to do 3D printing and other stuff, but for now it's just not at the point where I want it to be, and I'm mostly focused on my kits right now before I can do my own fabrication. So on the next slide is more of the MPCNC development at that time. So I did get to run and do a cutout of a crown for the tutorial, which was pretty neat, and I will probably go over in like later episodes on a different channel that's not focused on specifically housing as much, but more on my workshop and tools and other cool crafty ideas. But as you can see, I got the WikiHouse design in the bottom right there, and I was wanting to eventually cut it out with either my CNC machine or a laser module adaptation, which is actually preferable on the smaller scale kits. So in 2019 third quarter, between July and September, that's when I was really hitting in with my precious plastic equipment. I had issues with my shredder machine. There was a misaligned mounting bracket which was causing the motor to be dysfunctional. It was a lot of time cost, and it was a time cost sink. I had to replace a lot of equipment over distant coordination, and that took up a lot of time. I was setting up my precious plastic equipment. I started making significant progress with my MPCNC machine. I ran into some issues of the dual end-stop sensor, which I alliterated before, for running the cuts. I'd like to address that at some point soon, but for now I'm going to a contractor or professional who's doing my fabrication cuts right now. I attempted to install the laser mount for the alternative means of cutting the house kits, and I got my first house kit order from Europe, which was really awesome. I was very happy to see someone actually want to buy one of my kits. So on that top left, if you can make it out, is some of the services I wanted to offer with my program, or more on maybe the business side perhaps, rather than the housing program project. There's a bit of a distinction there that I'm setting up. But further on you'll see some of the equipment of my precious plastic pieces. There's like the hopper, or the lever for the injector, or the heating units. So there's a lot to it as far as setting up the equipment. Alright, on this slide you'll see is where my shredder was misaligned because the bracket was offset, which I was trying to figure out doing the cheaper version of setting up my own kit, but I should have just paid extra to have it fully assembled and ready to go, because that was a big issue I had to diagnose and troubleshoot, and it took a lot of time for me. But at the same time, like, I was racking up a line of credit and I didn't want to spend too much money. So it's just, that's the thing of when you do things too much by yourself, is that sometimes you just gotta pay the extra money. I didn't want to because of the line of using too much credit, but that's where I probably should have just waited and done it incrementally, but you live and you learn. So as you can see in that bottom picture, maybe you'll see like a pen and just showcasing how it's misaligned. So it took me a little while to get that figured out. A lot of troubleshooting there, as you can see in that picture, with the shredder upside down and just trying to figure it all out. So I had a lot of equipment to organize and just to document that I got everything. I'm still not certain if I have everything, but I've made progress where I can. In that picture right there, you'll see on the left is the 2 boxes that my kits came in. Those were ordered from Citizen Scientific Workshop, whereas the compressor was purchased from Precious Plastic International here in the US. And I can elaborate further as far as each of the different machines, but for now I'm just going over my timeline. As you can see, there's the extruder, partially assembled, some of the motors I was working on, the control boxes. I got my kits, there's the extruder again, there's an example of what the extruder is supposed to look like from a design standpoint, and all the motors scattered about. There's my injection machine, a good chunk of it. And there's the compressor that came along, that was delivered. Actually, I think the first one that was delivered. No, well, yeah, first or second one. And that one, I've got some electrical issues with that as well. The one with that is getting the right plug, which I've gotten the right plug, but now I have to adapt it to the outlet. And that I need to hire an electrician for, but I'm not at that stage yet. Right now, I wanted to just get my shredder machine working at the very least, the first machine of the 4 precious plastic machineries. So I went ahead and got stuff replaced with the motor, gear worm box, and the bracket. And eventually I got with the new bracket, I was able to get it set up not quite properly, but more so. And I had to make a few adjustments, and I got to line up, but I wasn't able to get it run. I had trouble turning it on, and I tried to diagnose it with little time and not adequate right electrical equipment or tools, and I ended up taking apart the switch to diagnose that for turning it on, as well as the motor wiring. So as I was saying with the recycling machines, I had some issues with the shredder. I couldn't turn it on, and I started diagnosing the switch as well as the motor to figure out where the line of electricity was faulting. I didn't have the proper tools or equipment at the time, so I was making a bit of a mess, and I was in a big rush because I didn't have the proper time from working a lot of hours, so I made a mess. And I haven't been able to fix the shredder machine, so I finally, actually this week of May 14th, got it to a Wise Electric, and so far they seem to be diagnosing the machine and making the adequate repairs, so that way I can at least turn the control box on and run the motor. So in this slide you might see it's my order from Citizen Scientific Workshop, and just some of the payments of components that were required to get that set up. Alright, 2019 fourth quarter, October through December. I decided to contract out the house kit development with 24/7 Signs, my buddy Mike Worthington. Really great professional. He developed my first working house kit underway on the Doghouse Guild development and production model, and it was a really great job. Or a few minor hiccups, but he got it figured out and we got it produced, and I had it set up. And with all the wood costs and everything else, I modified the sizing to be a reasonable for squarish unit, but it still came up to be a bit expensive, like about $800 some at the time. And I had to eventually do like a smaller design in order to meet price point for people. Also, I ordered my CR10S Pro Creality printer, and I was able to use that to make the repairs to my MP-CNC machine. So in this slide you'll see some of the WikiHouse kit designs. So the top left is the actual SketchUp drawing of the WikiHouse, of the Ren model, yep. And some of the FreeCAD designs, a little snippet from one of the manuals, and some of the kit parts of the house that were laser cut. So in this slide there's some more cutouts of those wood panels, and he went ahead and shipped those to me, or packaged them up. I was able to take them home with me. And this image is a bit of my Creality 3D printer work, where I set up my Creality 3D printer, was able to print out some of the MP-CNC components that I needed to repair my CNC machine. And with a 3D printer, I added a better printing layer for future prints. But while tweaking my equipment, or actually while using my equipment, I realized things don't work very effectively, and so I've been trying to make progressive upgrades. So that's been a bit time consuming as well. With the Creality, I'm right now changing the head mount, and also I'm learning that I get more cracks because I print stuff in the basement because it's so cold. So at some point I need to purchase like a small chamber to insulate the temperature environment for the work area, so that way it'll do proper prints. So as you can see, it's another view angle of my workshop with the Creality printer, and as you'll notice in those green circles, there's cracks in some of the components that I've built or produced. So that's where some kind of insulation unit or encasing would be very useful at some point in the midterm future. So 2020, first quarter, January through March, I finally got my doghouse kit produced. I underwent the assembly of my kit recording trial assembly for the full kit. I got my house kit money purchase returned to the first person who purchased one of my kits due to a long length of time. I found out I had to pay additional fees for the processing, so I got a loss out of that, but either way, someone was still interested enough to go ahead and purchase my kit. The COVID pandemic struck, and my low 0% interest ended, jumping to 25+%. So I filed for a financial hardship program with my credit card issuer, and that's where I've been trying to pay off that debt while I'm getting my equipment and machinery set up properly. So in these slides, you'll see me putting together the WikiHouse kit, or Open House Party kit. WikiHouse designs, for usage, I'm supposed to use my Open House Party name. And so for reference, there's me putting my foot inside the house to see like the scaling of what it is, scale model. A picture of one of the cats that wanted to rest on my boxes, and the kit unpackaged in one of my totes. So there's one of my house kits as I was assembling it, and I was pretty excited to be assembling it, to see some of this progress. And it's boggled my mind how long some of this stuff takes to get it produced, well, get the materials, get the equipment, or have it contracted out the work, have it produced, and then get it to actually like function somewhat. I still needed to put some screws or fasteners in, but because it's a demo, I wanted to keep it so it's easily to assemble and disassemble and play around and tinker with. So another picture, this one is just some of the wood product I purchased. Oh, this is the smaller version kit. So at the time, the first version was a bit too expensive. Ideally, I would get that price down through efficiencies like doing a group production, or doing my own production like with my own laser cutter. But for now, I realized that the price was too high as with my first client. So to make it more affordable for her, I scaled it down once more and went to what I call a birdhouse scale model. And this is me using some of this base wood or just smaller veneer or wood that I had Mike laser cut and produced to make my kits. So these are kind of my initial stage primer to get started, and the cost is lower, so it can help people get more into doing my program. So in this phase, I have this sketchy getup, and it's me doing a recording of assembling my house kit. And as you can see here, I have the recording camera held up by some weird chair and a light on my my platform, and just turning it around and just doing the video recording. So sometimes it can be quite a bit of an effort to have some good visual effects to do for episodes. So here is a little example of one of my purchases, and that price is not accurate because it costs a whole lot more to produce, at least for a one-off unit. It would probably be different if I was like an industrial grade company and doing like mass production. I could get that price much lower, but there's a lot that goes into it as far as the cost of wood, laser cutting services, and everything else in between. And also right now we're in 2021, and from the COVID pandemic, wood prices are just like ridiculous. So actually that price should be increased more. And I'm actually considering looking into plastic lumber with my plastic recycling equipment to do kit models as far as that can have the price stay low. But obviously I couldn't afford to sell it at that price point without taking a severe loss. And even though I'm running as a nonprofit program, I can't get my price that low. It was just she ordered it before I had time to adjust the website. So I was still very excited and very happy, and I really hope I can get her a kit sometime soon. But I gotta work on getting that price down over time. Alright, 2020, second quarter, April through June. I initiated the setup of my plastic recycling machines. The shredder machine is the starter machine, and the equipment was incorrectly set up. At that time, I also ordered a lot of the wood from Home Depot for version 3 production, and I returned and replaced the wood for the half-inch thick wood for version 3 house. So I'm not going to go in order because it's a bit inverted. But as far as with the scaling of my program, I have 1 16-inch thick wood, 1 8-inch thick wood. I was going to go to 1/4 inch thick, but because of some issues with getting the wrong type of wood, meaning specs, I went up to 1/2 inch thick wood. And with the scalings, as far as getting the scaling, as far as with there's a relationship between the thickness of wood and the scaling of the full-on house production. And so each time I do a larger and larger version, I scale up the thickness of the wood, and it proportionally increases the size of the production. So there's that relationship. So as far as with the doghouse, my next version 3, my she shed of sorts, should be quadruple. Yep, quadruple the size of my doghouse kit. So it'll be much larger. So that'll be exciting when I do a production of my version 3 kit. So some of these videos, it's just me, I think, maybe repackaging or packaging, unpackaging the shredder machine. Here is some of the components for the shredder machine in the order. And yeah, the shredder box, the hopper, some of the footing pieces, and once again having some issues with getting the alignment of the motor. This is me having with the old bracket, or working with the old bracket, and just trying to figure out everything. Once again, a big time sink, and the replacement of the proper sizing bracket, and trying to figure out the whole wiring setup. So in this picture is when I went to Home Depot, and I was able to have a family member take me to pick up the wood. It was incorrectly spec'd wood, so I had to return it. But that was quite of a process in itself to get that wood or that material. So in 2020 third quarter, July through September, that's when I ended my Marco's pizza job, and started working at Conagra. I eventually was employed through Manpower at Conagra, and at that time I was repairing my desktop computer, figuring out some tax stuff like I am now once again, and just working crazy 80-hour work weeks. So here's another picture of me working at Marco's and filing my Form 990N e-postcard. I was very busy working on multiple businesses, not my own, but Marco's and Fastenal at the time. And eventually, like I said, I quit Marco's and was doing Fastenal and Conagra because I got bills, you know. Because I bought all this equipment and the interest was coming due. And I want to pay as little interest as possible, and I need to pay out and meet my responsibilities and obligations of my debt. So in 2020 fourth quarter, September through December, I finally quit the Fastenal job after a year there. Working 80-hour weeks, partly as a temp, was insane. I'm still working about 60 hours at the time, 60 plus hours at Conagra, sometimes even 70 hours with the pandemic food demand insanity. It was good. I got hired in at Conagra and I got my big pay raise by being an employee. I was figuring out my health care requirements, taxes due, trying to set up a line of credit from Enterprise, and the meeting minutes that were required to get the line of credit. So here's an email from my credit union as far as some of the requirements I had to meet in order to get the line of credit. 2021 first quarter, January through March, I've been figuring out the meeting minutes, figuring out financials, or my personal financials, because working for a company, there's benefits, and it's really helped me better financially establishing myself and catching up on my debts that I've been owing or needing to pay back at some point. I've been trying to prioritize more videos, but trying to keep record and organize all this stuff in a nice, easy format to present is taking a lot of time outside of my 60-hour per week job. I've been setting up my server and database for my enterprise, as you'll see in the next slide. So I'm really excited because I've been paying for different services online, and this Open Project software, I was able to finally set up my own server with the help of my friend Joseph. And I'm using currently the Open Project software, the community version, and so I have a public viewing or viewable website that people can see the progress I make. And I need to make some changes as far as the proper domain name, so it's not just numbers and people can more easily search for me, as well as starting to update my records and documentation on the site. But as far as I can tell, my father was able to log in, and anybody can publicly access or at least view everything that I post on there. So it's public record, or my own public record keeping. So it helps be a way of showcasing how I'm progressing on my program. And of course, there's my YouTube channel, which I've set up, where I'm progressively building some of these house kits and stages. So that's pretty exciting to see some of this development and mark my progress. Now, 2021 second quarter, April through June issues. So right now I need to showcase that I'm utilizing my trademark. So I've got to sell some of my kits, which is what I'm really pushing for right now. I'm trying to get into regular episode postings. This is a big episode from giving a good, small, believe it or not, small recap of all I've done this past couple years, and just trying to get into a routine of regularly posting episodes so people know what I'm doing with my program. Another question is, should I take a video class? Ideally, yes, but do I have the time really? No. And I've got other bills to pay, but it's something I really should be doing, but it's just not the ultimate priority. But at some point it would be good for me to take a video class and really finesse some of my video editing and video presentation skills. Then also some of the things I'm trying to do with this summer season, spring-summer, is sync up with other virtual communities. So my program is Open House Party, but I'm referencing a lot of material from Open Building Institute, WikiHouse, Open Source Ecology, Precious Plastic Recycling, and a lot of other really cool organizations online. And so for me, by posting my episodes and presentations and content, I'm hoping to garner the right audience and publicly showcase what I've been working on and help me integrate my work with the developments of others across the online community that expands across the globe. And this is a cool little software called SyncThing that I am wanting to implement in my own server and synchronize my development efforts on my website with the work of others and properly document and showcase how I'm expanding on others' work. And then lastly, this is a picture of my website where I'm showcasing my kit, the Seed Eco Home kit from Open Building Institute, and a Tabby toy car I'd like to 3D print and have run on a scale model, toy scale model for now. But over time I'd like to beef these up and explain how to finance model some of the financing models for with the tax code for affording an affordable house and getting your own home established. Alright, and with that, that should end my presentation. So thanks for watching episode 3, Open House Party, and this is Chaz Murillo signing off. I'll see you next time.